We have right now, you'll recall when the Japanese were interned, it was a little, as I recall, it was like 120, 140,000 Japanese, something like that, that FDR put in internment camps on the West Coast. Our internment camps now have over 48,000 people. We're pushing 50,000 people in our internment camps. This is a huge explosion in people being put into internment camps compared to the Obama administration. We have over 200 internment camps now in the United States. 2/3 of them are run by private corporations on a for-profit basis. And at these privately run for-profit detention centers, the people who are being held have not committed any crime. Nobody is even arguing that they have committed a crime. So I think that they don't qualify for you may be a slave under the 13th Amendment. You know, they're not criminals. They're people waiting to have the government determine whether their claim for asylum is legitimate or not. These are all asylum seekers. But now we discover, and this Victoria Law writing about this in the New York Times a couple days ago, the title is End Forced Labor in Immigrant Detention, that these for-profit companies, in order to jack their profits up, are having the detainees, the people who are the prisoners in the internment camps, do the work that normally they would have to hire janitors to do. And again, keep in mind, these people are not charged with a crime. Wilhelm Barrientos, a Guatemalan asylum seeker, said he had to either work for a few cents an hour or go without basic things like soap. One night, a guard awakened him for the 2 a.m. shift in the kitchen rather than his scheduled 10 a.m. shift. When he refused, the guard threatened him to move him to a more violence-plagued dormitory. So Mr. Barrientos acquiesced. Martha Gonzalez from Mexico was detained in 3 different core civics prisons in Texas from May 2016 to August 2017. She was waiting for a T1 visa. T1 visas are what are given to victims of human trafficking. This was a woman who had apparently been, like, you know, kidnapped and brought to the United States in human trafficking victim. And in the core civic detention camp, the internment camp, she worked in the kitchen, she sorted clothing, and when she once tried to take a day off, the prison staff punished her by refusing to give her basic hygiene supplies such as sanitary pads and toothpaste. Private corporations hold more than 70% of the people in immigration detention. Again, none of them have committed a crime. The government pays them a fixed daily price per person, which is an economic incentive to run the facility as cheaply as possible, to rely on the detainees to cook the meals, mop the hallways, scrub the toilets, mow the lawns, even cut the hair. Core Civic, their revenue last year, $440 million. Geo Group, their revenue last year, $2.26 billion. They charge $12 for a 15-minute phone call. They charge $11 for 4 ounces of toothpaste. Core Civic, between 2016 and 2018, spent $2.8 million in lobbying and over $700,000 buying politicians with campaign contributions. Geo Group spent $4.4 million in lobbying and $2.5 on campaign contributions. So that's what's going on. And now what's happening is that these detainees, these people who are not criminals, who are fleeing violence, but 48,000 of them are being held in internment camps in the United States now. These people are starting to commit suicide in large numbers. This by Matt Stevens yesterday in the New York Times. ICE says it is force-feeding detainees who are on a hunger strike. They are trying to commit suicide. And they force-feed them through their nose. They run a plastic hose through the nose. And very often, those who are force-fed have to endure pain and bleed from their noses. And then they add those who have gone on hunger strike were placed in solitary confinement as punishment. There are as many as 30 people on a hunger strike in El Paso, Texas, in one center. It's barbaric, she says, this practice of force feeding. Since May of 2015, Freedom for Immigrants has documented 1,396 people on hunger strikes in 18 immigration detention facilities across the United States. And what are they protesting? Unsanitary and abusive conditions and the fact that their detention appears to be indefinite. The American Medical Association said the forced feeding of hunger strikers is unethical and is never justified. But this is what we're doing. So how do we break this? How do we wake people up to this? How do we even hold our heads up and say, I'm an American, when our country now has 48,000 asylum seekers in an internment, in 200 internment camps across the country that are generating billions of dollars in profit for a couple of for-profit corporations? How do we do that?